It is Jules and Jim. This is Jules. I am Jim. Welcome to another episode. On today's episode of Jules and Jim, we'll talk about matinee shows, psychic music moments. We will pay tribute to Viv Trimble of Luscious Jackson. But before we do all of that, I have to apologize to you.
Are you apologizing
DJ Hestaprin.
because my straight hair is too sexy for this podcast?
No, I wouldn't feel threatened by you looking sexy or you having straight hair. It would only up the stock of this podcast.
I hope so.
Yeah, so you're looking good.
Thank you so much. I hope my straight hair helps this podcast become more successful.
And I'm not going to apologize anymore about my beauty filter. That's just the way it goes. But on the last episode of Jules and Jim,
yes,
you quickly fired off an email to Kathleen Hanna. And you didn't even think about it. And I respected that so much because that's something that I cannot do in life.
Okay.
I just can't do something like that. So for those that know, Jules and Jim, we have a shelf life. We said we're going to do May and April, May, and then that's it. And then, we'll shop it out to people. And if someone picks it up, then we'll keep on going. So someone asked for a one sheet a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
So I thought, okay, let me put together the one sheet. So I put together a one sheet and I started to look it over and proofread. And then I overanalyzed it.
Okay.
And I overanalyzed it so much, I put a wrong word in the one sheet.
What was the word?
For whoever gets the one sheet, they could see that word and be like, pfft, and throw it out. I don't know if they still do that. Because whenever you would make a resume when you were younger, like if you misspell something, you'll never get that job.
That's right.
So I misused the word affecting.
Did you write affecting?
I wrote it, originally I wrote it with an A.
Yes, affecting change.
And then I overthought it. And then I looked it up on Google and I'm like, maybe in this instance, it's with an E.
Yes.
So I put the E, and then I asked people after the fact, and they're like, no, it was an A. Our first one sheet that went out, it's incorrect.
Have you heard of ChatGPT, who should be writing all of our one sheets, by the way?
I have.
Why didn't you run it through ChatGPT just for like the second eyeballs?
The thing is, I had it right.
Well, do you think that
I basically put it through my version of Chat GPT.
Right.
And then it made me rethink it and I put the wrong word. So now we have a one sheet out there that makes it look like we're idiots. So I apologize.
Well, I appreciate the apology. Is there a call to action on the one sheet? Because that's what people really mess up, and that's a real problem.
No, everything else is fine.
And your email address is on it? Like they know how to find us?
They can find us.
Okay.
Everything's fine, except that one word that I overthought.
But that's a really hard word. And I think that I know the company that you sent the one sheet to, and it's not exactly MIT. I'm just saying.
No, but the one person who reads it, what if they're a grammar nerd?
I mean, if they're a grammar nerd, they wouldn't be working in a position to give Jules and Jim a platform. That's true. Working in a library.
All right. So I just wanted to say that if that costed us a chance, I don't even think if that cost us a chance at that place,
yes,
I may have blown it. Well,
fucking hell. I really hope that doesn't happen. And costs is the word, not costed.
No, I know. I could go through, I don't want to discuss it today, but I missed a year of school and that's why my grammar is shit.
No way. Is that because you have a late birthday?
This would be a whole therapy session. Ooh. So I was in the lower group and then I flipped to the higher group. Okay. I was actually in the higher group through grade school. I went to the lower group and I went back up to the higher group. There's a reason I went to the lower group, but when I made the flip back up to the higher group, I missed the whole introduction, to grammar.
What year is this?
This would have been between 7th and 8th grade.
Right. That's a hard time to miss. Okay. I'll tell you something else very interesting. When I was a young actress, when I was like 16, I was in a production of Our Town. Okay. And the other people in the play were adults. And one of the adults was part of he was a child of the late 60s. And he was part of this like movement that was learning, like he was part of an experimental group of students that learned to spell in like a phonetic different kind of way. And so he couldn't really spell or write properly. And he would always tell us, like, I learned this in this different kind of way. And we were like, okay. And then we had a cast party where I went to a party as like a teenager with a bunch of like wacky adults. It was where people were like smoking grass. It was like totally bananas. And he brought out a workbook, his writing spelling workbook from when he was young, and showed us it and showed it to us. And it was like all this weird wacky phonetic spelling that they were testing out on this like group of students that I guess they must have abandoned, and the kids who learned it like can't really spell or write properly now.
Wow.
I know.
So I'm like him.
Well, I wouldn't say you're like him, because at your age he was doing like a regional theater version of Our Town on Long Island, and you're clearly not doing that. But
How is this any different?
like with me, I'm like, but I think the headline is that if you miss like a formative moment in schooling, you may end up putting the word affecting instead of affecting on a one sheet that could cost us like the Jules and Jim podcast syndication that we're going for.
And if you only knew why I dropped to the lower grade, but I can't get into it now because it would take me an hour to explain it all.
All right, well, that's like definitely a cliffhanger. So if you want to come on my radio
maybe for one of the last Jules and Jim episodes, we'll explain why I had to go to the lower class before I went back up to the higher class again.
You know what would be super interesting if we did it like a legit therapy session.
You let me know when, and I'm down.
All right. Well, let's see if we can get a deal, and then we'll talk about it after.
Right. All right. So we have a good friend, Carrie, who we worked with at SiriusXM. Shout out to Carrie. She's the one that posted this article. And I think Carrie said, look at me, I'm Jamie Lee Curtis. And then I read the article and I said, you know what, Carrie, I'm Jamie Lee Curtis too.
Yeah.
So not too long ago, Jamie Lee Curtis did an interview with Hollywood Reporter because Oscar season was coming up, and they asked her if she was going to the Oscar dinner. And she said no. And they said, why? And she says, it starts at 7:30, which means food isn't going to be served until 9 p.m. I go to bed at 7. I'm not going to the Oscar dinner. And by the way, congratulations to Jamie Lee Curtis, who won Best Supporting Actress for Everything, Everywhere at Once.
Yes, I think it's Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, isn't it?
Maybe.
Okay.
I know there's everything and everywhere.
Got it.
I didn't see the movie, but she won an award.
Right, okay. I watched half of it.
Best Supporting Actress.
Wonderful.
All right, so then Jamie Lee Curtis starts talking about music. She thought about that dinner, and then she said she brought up U2, Bruce Springsteen, and Coldplay. I don't know why she brought those three names up, but those were the three names that came up when Jamie Lee Curtis was talking about this. And she said those artists should play matinee shows. She said if Coldplay goes on at 9, there's an opening act. They're not going to go on at 9. They might not go on until 9:45 or 10 o'clock. She said, once again, this is Jamie Lee Curtis, not me, Coldplay could fill a stadium at 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
That's right. I fully agree with this. In fact, when I moved to the suburbs, which we could do a whole therapy show on, but that's
right. Yeah, there was a video you don't want me to post because you felt like you dissed your hometown.
I'm definitely like being mindful of what I'm saying. When I moved to the suburbs, I saw an immediate need. It was a need to dance. And these like parents would say to me, "Oh, where can we come hear you DJ?" And I was literally like, not nowhere ever, because none of y'all want to come. You know, they would be like, "Oh, what time would you go on?" And I'm like, not even in a world that you're imagining. And so I had this idea for a day party called Suburban Disco, in which we, hosted by you, in which we throw a party and have DJs, myself and a couple others, and we have a party in the middle of the day, and then you like day drink and you go home, and it's like 3 o'clock.
Have you done it yet?
No, like it's just on my list of ideas. But there's a party I like in New York called Friends from New York that I love. That's this Friday, actually. And I was with her on Friday and I was like, yo, we should do this party, a daytime party. Do you remember Body and Soul?
No.
Body and Soul was a downtown party that started like in the late morning and was over by 1 p.m. It was for people who were out the night before and like stayed out.
Oh, see, I don't, that doesn't count.
Although you didn't have to be out the night before, and people would start to go as like a brunch thing. You could
Okay.
dance from like 10 in the morning till like 1 p.m. and that was Body and Soul.
Now, to me, 10 o'clock's too early.
No, I agree.
When she said 1 o'clock, that spoke to me. Because I thought, you know what? We fill football stadiums at 1 o'clock every Sunday. Why couldn't we do the same for a band?
I think it's so smart, and especially now because it's so hard for bands to book venues because there's so much competition. Why aren't they like booking something at 1 and something at 7?
Right. Well, I have a friend, and he did this, I want to say a few years ago, but it's probably more than a few years ago.
Yeah.
He would DJ a set, and I think it would start around 6 or 6:30. It'd be over by 9 or 9:30, and he called his series In Bed by 10.
I love that. In Bed by 10.
And he would do this, I think, 1 or 2 Fridays out of the month, In Bed by 10.
Yeah, people, that's what people really want. They really want, let me rephrase that. That's what parents really want, is they want something where like it's not going to destroy them for the whole next day, because the cost of going out into the middle of the night is very high when you have children.
So do you think this is just for parents? You don't think any 20-somethings or 30-somethings would be into this?
I think that like anybody could be into this because your day is put together in chunks. I mean, that's why the matinee exists, period. But I think like there has to be an impetus for you to want to go to a party or even like a concert in the middle of the day. There has to be a reason why you'd prefer it to the nighttime, which is really the right time. And I would say that like that impetus is like there's no impetus to totally change and ruin and suck the fun out of your life like there is like children, you know?
No, yeah. When you have a concert at night, just throws everything off. There's babysitting. There's the next morning. If you could have a concert like Jamie Lee Curtis said at 1 p.m. and it's done by 4 p.m., you could make dinner, make sure your kid gets a shower or a bath,
Totally.
and you have the nighttime. You could watch TV at night.
You could do like Sunday night. You could binge watch Succession on a Sunday night and have had seen Coldplay that afternoon.
Right? So why doesn't this happen?
I don't know. What's up with that?
Because we know, like, I know that there's definitely a vibe when something happens at night.
Of course.
Like, I feel excited when I'm at a concert when it's Friday night or Saturday night.
Oh, the best.
I'm like, oh, like, I feel the specialness in the air.
yeah.
But when it's Tuesday night and I'm at Madison Square Garden, I'm looking at my clock. I'm like, come on, man. Like, when's the headliner going on? So how do we make this happen?
Well, I don't know, but I have to jump on something you said, which is the specialness of
Did I mess that up too?
No, I loved it.
Oh, okay.
That feeling of like being in the audience and the lights go out and like everybody cheers and all the phones come up is the best part of the concert.
But the thing is, that happens in an arena most of the time, because we talked about this on a past episode. Not too many bands get to play sold out stadium shows. So if Coldplay was playing an arena at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it would still be dark in there. You could still take out your cell phones. You could do all that fun nighttime stuff, and you wouldn't even know it until you left the arena.
I think it's a great idea for like a dance party. But when I think about a Coldplay show, it feels more like when you're in the theater, right? Which I spent some of my life in, as we referenced earlier in the show. When you're in the theater and you have like your 6 or your 8 shows a week, and you have your matinee on the Wednesday or Saturday, Sunday, and like Wednesday, whatever it is, your matinee audience is always like a bit snoozier than your like nighttime audience. You don't get like the standing ovation during the daytime. You don't get like the real rowdy sort of like, you don't get the participation during the daytime. It's a little bit of like the dry run for nighttime. So if you're Coldplay and every single show has to be magic, because you're Coldplay, you're selling magic, you're in like the magic selling business. If every single show has to be magic, maybe you can't really afford to mess with something as major as like trying to make magic in the afternoon, because magic is made at night.
No, I know that. But why can't there be a trailblazer? Why can't someone say, you know what, let's try this out? Because music in the afternoon works because we go to festivals throughout the entire summer. So some of our favorite bands are playing at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
But not an indoor festival. Only an outdoor festival, because magic can be made outside in the sun in the summer. Magic is made at two times, at night and in the summer.
Then let's have matinee shows in the summer.
Yeah, but like you want to be inside on a beautiful summer day?
No, we'll go outside.
Well, yeah, we could do an outside show, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll allow that.
You know what? Speaking of magic, the best time. This gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Going to a festival, a band starts at 7, and then the sun goes down, and then they hit the encore as it's dark outside. That's the best.
That is the best. Anytime you are outside and you don't get physically colder at a concert, and the concert starts when the sun is out and the sun goes down, and you don't get cold. That's magic.
Yes. You don't have to put on your Britney Spears sweatshirt.
Or your Janet Jackson sweatshirt. We didn't plan this, by the way. This is like...
No, we didn't.
This is like... We didn't say everyone wear a sweatshirt that depicts a woman Justin Timberlake has apologized to. That just accidentally happened.
Did he apologize to Janet Jackson?
Yeah, he sent out a tweet after the Britney movie. And like, I'm so sorry for what I did to you.
Oh, yeah. A tweet.
Good call. Right.
However many years later.
Totally. He was like, thoughts and prayers. You hear my kid running up and down the stairs, by the way?
I didn't know that was your kid.
My office is underneath my staircase, and my daughter is home on a 17-day spring break that ends today.
Well, that's an impressive spring break.
Pretty long, huh?
All right. So closing out this topic, we can agree that matinee show, not a terrible idea. Someone should try it.
Yeah.
Football does it. And I think if you do it a bunch and then you have the nighttime shows almost mean more now. They're like a Sunday night football game or a Monday night football game.
Yeah, maybe like under the lights, Friday night lights, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're talking.
What band do you think would do it? What band do you think would do it? Coldplay's not going to do it. U2's not going to do it. The Flaming Lips, because they'll try anything.
I don't know. What do you think would be the right band to do it?
I bet we could talk Dave Grohl into doing it.
I don't know.
Because he likes to go long. We're like, Dave, think of this. You start at 2, you can go 4 hours, you'll be done by 6. And everyone still has energy.
It defeats the purpose if it's going to be like a 5-hour show. Like you can have the Roots do it. They'd be like, oh, we'll start at 1 and we'll still end at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like, that's not the point of this. That's not what we're doing.
No, but at the end of a long festival or even at the end of a long concert, you're tired at the end of the night. You can't give it your all at 11:15.
What about like a Fish or like a Goose, like a jam band?
They would do it. We could probably talk them into doing it.
We probably could, but I don't want to attend that type of a show. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm happy to broker this, but I don't want to attend it.
All right, so I sent out a tweet last week, and it was really weird. I was making breakfast, and for whatever reason, I thought to myself, why did MC Hammer ever cover Have You Seen Her?
I see her face and I can't let go. She's in my dreams and my heart, so let me know. Have you seen her?
For 5 minutes, I'm walking around my kitchen saying that was the dumbest thing ever. So hours later, I get into my car and I have it tuned to 90s on 9 on Sirius XM. And the first song that comes on is Have You Seen Her from MC Hammer.
That's crazy.
So I tweeted about it, and then you said that was a psychic music moment. So was I being a psychic that day?
I think sometimes we pick up the energy of the person programming the music. That has happened to me my entire life. My entire life. I've like thought of songs and they've come on the radio when we used to listen to the radio. But you can argue there's not that many songs in rotation, etc. But I have a musical moment that rivals this one. May I tell you? A psychic musical moment.
I would love to hear it.
I was at the gym on the elliptical machine in my building in Midtown.
Is this recently?
Not too long ago.
Okay.
And there's like, you know, a stereo that plays random songs. And my friend called me on my phone and said to me, hey, I just heard this song. It's like kind of an 80s song. And I don't know what it's called. It has like a weird name. I can't figure it out. I tried to Google it. Can I sing it to you? And I said, yes. And the song he was singing was, carry a laser down the road that I must travel. You know that one?
Yes.
And I said, oh, that song is called like Curie a Laser or whatever. And he's like, what is that? And I said, I don't know what it is, but it's a girl's name. As I'm explaining this, the song begins to play in the gym. And I was like, holy shit. And I was like, yo. Listen to what song is playing in my gym right now. And I like held my phone up and he was like, it was so weird. It was the weirdest thing ever. Crazy.
So what is that? That's just the universe?
So there's an experiment where they can map brain waves the same way that you can map sound waves. You know how it looks. You can map brain waves, like when you see somebody hooked up to a thing. You can map brain waves, but we know sound waves travel through the air and we can't see them, but we accept that they're real because we hear them. You hear me and I hear you. Brain waves do the same thing, but we don't have this like acceptance or understanding about how we communicate that way. Like I can talk to you, we can map the sound, and you know that I say the sound waves, you pick them up with your ears. But the brain waves, for sure, you pick up with your brain. That's like that's like what we call like a vibe, right? You get a vibe, or I'm
yes.
But sometimes you're thinking of something and then your friend's thinking of the same thing or says something and you're like, oh my God, what is that? But sometimes you're thinking of something, you say something, and in a more dramatic way, somebody else picks it up. Like when you're thinking about a weird song and then you go into like 90s on 9 and it's the first thing on because maybe whoever was programming it was like in the brain waves were like in the ether. How far can they travel? How fast do they go?
Could it be reversed? Because I'm assuming they probably programmed that playlist a week before I heard it. So maybe while they were programming that playlist, their brainwaves were going out and it hit me in my kitchen that morning.
Maybe. And like, what's up with my friend? It's like he was thinking about a song and instead of calling somebody else, he called me because maybe the like brainwaves of whoever, maybe that song sort of hit me before I realized it. And then he picked it up and he called me. Like, we don't really know. But can we accept that that's real? That like light waves you see, sound waves you hear, but where the fuck are you experiencing the brainwave?
Someone would say, well, that's a coincidence. And then I would say, why the hell was I haven't thought about that MC Hammer song in probably 25, 30 years.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
I got to tell you something else. The morning that you tweeted that, I was sitting right here in this very seat, this hot seat right here. And I'm working on an event where they want to have like a throwback celebrity perform, and there's a whole bunch of celebrities, and we like reached out and we got the numbers, whatever. So I got a text message from the planner who said they want MC Hammer. Is he still alive? And then I saw your tweet, and then I wrote back about it being a psychic musical moment.
There were MC Hammer brainwaves in the air that day.
And I bet it was like his birthday or something.
So in closing, I got this news on Good Friday, and it made me really sad. Kate Schellenbach, founding member of Luscious Jackson, sent it out. I technically, I don't know if she's the founding member. I think she came on later. But she tweeted out, or no, this was on Instagram. She posted that Vivian Trimble former keyboardist of Luscious Jackson, passed away at the age of 59 after battling cancer. And Viv, for anyone, you didn't know me in the 90s, Viv was my favorite. I just loved her vibe.
Yeah.
And I chased her down. Well, I didn't chase her down. I would never. That makes it sound like I was a stalker. I wasn't a stalker, but I saw her before a show in Pittsburgh, and I had my disposable camera, and I asked if we could take a picture. And she's like, "Nah, I don't look good." I'm like, "What do you look great." And then she finally agreed, and we took a picture. And I have a terrible disposable camera picture of me and Viv.
Do you have it here? Can we see it?
I posted it on Instagram, so I'll show it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
There it is. Wow, that's awesome. That's sad. I'm sorry.
yeah. I loved Viv, and then I bumped into Luscious Jackson many years later, and I said, "Hey, you played a Christmas show in Pittsburgh in 1997," and I made a sign, and they said, "Oh yeah, we remember the sign because it says all I want for Christmas is Viv," and they said we then kept the sign, and that sign went on tour with us. It was on our bus, it was on our airplane. So, and then I said, Viv never thought I was like a stalker or anything. They're like, no. Like she thought it was funny. She thought it was cool. And I said, oh, that's great.
Oh, that's nice. I'm surprised Luscious Jackson had an airplane.
Well, and it wasn't their airplane. It was on a airplane.
Got it. That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing, you know, when you think about like being in a band and people send you stuff and they make you things. And I was in a band that wasn't as famous as, you know, Coldplay, but people made us stuff and sent us stuff. And like, I probably have some of those things. And then you think about yourself, you know, things we made or sent or did for artists that we love. And, you know, they might have that, like a letter you wrote to someone, a fan letter, a sign, like for anyone, not just us. You never know what is the thing that, you know, really affects somebody. And that like, as a fan of a band, you really have the power to touch an artist like in a pretty, you know, profound way when you put pen to paper. We're like kids in the 90s, right? And I think in the 90s, there was this real understanding that the band wasn't the band without the fans. And the fans weren't the fans without the bands. And the Beastie Boys, you know, back to the Beastie Boys, but they really said that. Be boys, be girls. It's like we were a yin and a yang. You know, it was very spiritual. And we went together, we fit together. There was no artist if there were no fans, and there was no fans if there was no artist. And so everyone was just as important, and we was like, we were connected. And that's why it doesn't surprise me that Luscious Jackson held on to your poster, because your poster, All I Want for Christmas is Viv, allowed them to be a successful band. Because what they made, music, made you make the poster, which then allowed them to making music. And I think that it's like a modern construct of social media that the bands and the fans are so wildly disconnected now. And I think it's a real bummer.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you can't have one without the other.
Can't have one without the other.
That was deep. This
was like the Jules and Jim sort of like therapy vibe. That's because I was doing therapy until 1 minute before we started this.
So this could be the pilot for that therapy episode that we want to do.
Yeah, this is like a new format. Like if we bring this to like a gigantic, like multinational corporate music media company, we'll just like focus on the tunes. But if we bring this to the masses via the checkbook of a health insurance company or a pharmaceutical company, well, this is the angle that we're going to be speaking from.
And I will not be doing the one sheet for that.
Certainly not.
I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. I'll pass it over to ChatGPT, my beautiful assistant.
Yes. All right. So for DJ Hestaprin, also known as Jules, my name is Jim, and we will see Yins later.